Hi there, I'm Gord Burton and today I'm plugged into pike. Now this lure I've just retrieved is a high fin hog buster, meant to imitate a young duckling. And pike are very predatory, and during the summertime take many young ducks and other waterfowl off the bank of this water. But today, because we're getting into the autumn, there's not many young ducklings about, so I'm changing my approach. I'm going subsurface with a different type of lure. And I'll be using a Rapala Super Shad Rap that is a very good imitation of a roach. I'll also try lightweight fluttering spoons, casting them, retrieving them gently back to imitate a roach. The weather this past day or so been very changeable. Rain, showers, strong winds. Now it's finally settled down and we're getting a bright period, and I should get in to quite a number of pike. Just jerking this lure steadily through the water so it keels and flashes on its side. Stir the pike into the strike. Normally I'd be working my way up and down this drain, covering all sorts of reed banks, but due to the fact the cameraman can't keep up with me, I'm restricted to this one short stretch of drain, but hopefully a number of pike will pass through. They're on the move, the water's nice and clear, and I should manage to get the hooks into a few fish. If not, then I might have to cover some water and the cameraman will have to do some work. Now these drains were dug probably 100 years ago, maybe more. I don't know the exact history of them, but I know they've been here a long time. Dug originally to drain Martin Mere. 100 odd years ago, this place here was a big lake, and they dug all these drains to reclaim the land for farming. 3 pools, river crossings, Boundary Brook, Fine James Brook, back drain, New Cut. The New Cut, actually my father worked on that drain when it was first dug back in the late 50s and into the early 60s. And I was probably, well, I was the first angler ever to fish it. And these waters really abound with fish, roach, bream, tench, perch, and a lot of good pike. Over the years we have suffered some major pollutions, and it's been really heartbreaking to see. But thankfully things have changed, and the future looks bright, and hopefully it won't be a long time before I'm catching pike to near 30 pounds from some of these waters. Talking about Martin Mere, over in the distance several miles upstream is Martin Mere Wildfowl Trust, formed by Peter Scott in the early 60s. And this patch of land is really a paradise for wildfowl, pink-feet geese, Canadas, greylags, thousands upon thousands of duck, mallard, pintail, widgeon, teal. The pheasant shoots on the back. Private syndicates own the shooting rights. Lord of the manor various other patches of land. And many thousands of pheasants are released every year for the guns to shoot, the syndicates. It really is a lovely part of the country. I mean, I've travelled the length and breadth of the country for pike, but I could never envisage moving anywhere else. This has always been my home, and it's a lovely part of the world to be. Especially I've got the fishing so close to my doorstep. Fish these waters sometimes every day for weeks and weeks on end, simply because I'm so close. Now this water is only probably 5 feet deep in the middle, and because it's relatively clear, I don't need to retrieve a lure fast. As long as it's in the top 6-8 inches, a foot of water, goes over any pike, then they're going to see it. No use trying to retrieving fast and deep. Your lure will scrape the bottom, pick up muck, and the pike won't take that. You'll notice I'm fishing in short jerks, which causes the plug that's swimming through the water like that to keel and flash as I'm jerking, and any pike lay up where you just see that flash, and that can be the trigger in stirring it into the strike. Spoon fishing is a really effective way. The lightweight fluttering spoons, holding your rod high, working the rod high like that, have the spoon flitting and dancing just beneath the surface. Really an explosive, action-packed way of catching fish. You know, it's really exciting stuff. You're seeing the plug skittering and dancing through the water, and all away comes the pike, slam, crash, bang, and it's away. Pike fishing really at its most exciting. Over the years, you know, I've had some of the most gill flaring, edge shaking, crash bang action imaginable on waters throughout the UK and across Ireland, Canada. Enjoys tremendous lure fishing sessions for pike. People often say to me, do you not get fed up of going after all those pike, Gord? You know you're not going to catch any monsters in these rivers. And, fell to tap then. Yeah, gotcha! Yes, yes! Oh. Just hope the hook's staying. Oh yeah, it's not a bad fish. Oh, I thought it was going to jump then. Also, always be careful of flying trebles. It's not finished yet. Flying trebles when you come to land a pike, otherwise you can end up with it in your fingers. Now, gotcha. Finger across its snout, hands under its chin. Good tight grip. Wasn't coming off, that's for sure. When I catch a pike on dead baits, I use artery forceps, long nose forceps, to get the hooks out, because when I'm dead baiting I use small hooks. On these large plugs they've got heavy duty trebles, and forceps are not adequate for the job. So I use these special pliers which allow me to grip the shank of the treble firmly and twist it out in one firm go. Perfect for the job. Now, not a bad condition pike, that. Beautiful. It's got an orange tinge to it, this. It's not like the other ones I've caught. Lean, mean fighting machine. Just look at them for a set of teeth, eh? 700 of them, all facing backwards. The last view for many a roach and many a perch and bream. The deadly cavernous mouth of Aesox lucius, the pike, the supreme predator. Let's return it to become a 20-pounder in a few years' time. Away you go, my beauty. Slink back from where you have come. Oh, away you go into the deeps. Another pike for old Gordy. Super shad wrap. This is the plug, the deadly shadrap. Just zoom in on close to that and see the tooth mark of many an encounter with a toothy pike. These shadraps really are a dynamite plug. Imitation roach, a real pike catcher. Certainly one of my all-time greats. So come on, let's see if old Lee Socks is on the prowl in style. Bit of weed and grass around me reel there. You're doing some whinging there, Tosh. Now, when the pike are on the prowl in this place, many a time you'll hit 5 or 6 fish, one after the other, and then not another fish, maybe for 3 or 4 hours, and then something might trigger a pack of fish to go on the prowl again. A few weeks ago, just before I jet setted across to Canada, about half a mile further downstream from where I am now, I really got stuck into a real mess of pike that were mad on the feed, and in an hour and 17 minutes, which I actually timed, I hooked 22 pike to 13 pounds on the Bengal Fire Tiger pattern Bommalongay and the Fire Tiger Rapala Magnum. Non-stop action, fish after fish. I actually turned maybe 5 or 6 fish that didn't connect for approximate weight of 150 pound, which is me best ever aggregate weight of fish off the crossings. Not my best ever weight of big fish. I once took 141 pounds in 2 hours one morning, 13 fish, 6 in double figures, and the 2 best 18 3/4 pounds on the silver Rapala original minnow, and the 21 pounder fishing with the natural approach, in that case a roach. Tremendous action. Tremendous action that hopefully I may repeat something like this today. You never know when the pike are on the prowl just what may turn up. You may have noticed me twist my rod then. What can happen when you're casting regularly? Your top piece can work loose. So you've got to keep a check on it, adjust it every so often. Notice I keep searching that far bank. These far rush banks are where I expect to catch the pike. The sun's shining down on it now. Pike likes sunlight. Throw some light down into the water. Come on, pike, let's have a look at you. These little teasing jerks. It's indicating a roach swimming through the water. Injured roach, preferably. Easier for the pike to catch. I mean, you never see roach swimming or perch in one monotonous straight line through the water. They'll stop, turn here, look there. Swim all sorts of different ways. Far too many people will cast out a lure, retrieve it in one monotonous straight line. Now you will catch pike that way occasionally, but not a lot of the time. You must cajole, kid. Work the lure that may be injured. Something's not right. And the pike may see a shoal of roach right in the vicinity where you're fishing. All of a sudden, he sees that plug swaying through the water, doing something different. It triggers the killer instinct, and bingo, old Gordy whacks the hooks in again. I don't always retrieve the plugs with a non-stop jerky retrieve. If you retrieve your lure continually too fast, you'll dive into the bottom and pick up mud. The depth of a plug dives depends on its diving ability, the depth of its vein, the angle of the vein on the front of it. I'll show you briefly now. See, that governs the depth that the plug can dive. You know, that will dive to 8 to 10 feet. So just always watch your retrieve. Talking about retrieves, I've been in my boat or on the bank of this river, retrieving steadily on a flat, calm day, and all of a sudden, boom! Yard behind the plug, I've seen the green, long shadow. Yard by yard, it's come following behind me plug, right to the very end of my retrieve under my feet. And in all honesty, I've had the plug 4 feet away from the end of my rod, twitch, 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 and I'm convinced that that pike has looked at me, looked at the plug, and slowly sank into the deep, saying, "Not today, Gordy, you're not kidding me today." Yes! Yes! Gone down the side. Oh, it's gone under the bank, it's gone into the weed. It's only a rooter. Come on, wait, come on, tall Gordy. Watch that flying treble. Player's job, wherever they may be. There they are. Looks like small pike are now on the move. Yes, nice fish. I'm happy catching any kind of fish, any size. Oh, there you go. Right, it looks like there's a few small pike around, so I'm going to scale down my size of lure, and I might as well be catching a few small ones than chasing after little ones with a really big lure. So I'll go into my box and select myself a tiny shad wrap. I bet you'd like to have a look in this box, eh? Whoa, not many people have had the privilege. Just hook this little tiny shad wrap on. There's the lure. That's the one that's been doing the business. The shad wrap. And now I've changed to the smaller one. See if we can catch some more smaller fish. Talking about lures, eh? I'm going to give you a privileged look now into my beloved lure box. That there is a muskellunge. They abound in lots of the big waters of North America and Canada. They go to huge, huge size. Member of the pike family, and it's my ambition to one day catch one of these huge pike, huge muskie should I say. Now then, let me open the jewel box. And there you are. Amongst my huge collection of lures, I've got something that will do almost anything to exploit almost any situation that I'm likely to encounter on any water that I may pike fish in the entire world. Deep divers, slow sinkers, floaters, churners, everything I have got to catch the pike. I've been catching pike today on the silver shad wrap. That perch pattern one, devastating catcher in clear water in the summertime. I've had fish to 25-12 on that one. They come in a bewildering array of colours, names, actions, they do everything. That is a believer. That is a high-fin creeper. That is a big eyes. This one here, or should I say those that are stuck together, are grandma lures. You name it, there's something in there. Lucky 13, hog, hogbuster, creek chub. The spoons. Sometimes fluttering spoons will outfish anything. Copper spoons, fire tiger spoons, red and white spoons. There's a day when a spoon will really score. Bucktail spinners. Big bucktails, fluorescent bucktails can really do the business at times, and I've caught a lot of pike on these. Crazy crawlers, they just come in so many different styles. Here's some more modern baits that have come onto the scene in the UK in recent times. The jerk bait. This all it does, it's like a stick bait, and you jerk on it with your rod to instill the action into it. And these are proving to be exceptionally good fish catchers. Bucktails, large bucktail spinners, yellow mop, red mop. These churn their way through the water. And when I had an attempt at catching a muskie in Canada a few weeks ago, I saw a fish 4 feet long swim in front of me in the boat as this spoon was coming towards the end of its retrieve. These plugs are made of plastic, metal, wood. All of these, in some way, can be worked to imitate some kind of living being, a fish, vole, frog. As I said earlier, imitation ducks, crazy crawlers, high-fin creepers, jitterbugs, fat wraps. There are just so many different lures available to the angler that are imported into the UK from America and from Canada. Now there's numerous tips that I must give the newcomer to lure fishing. Never ever trust the hooks on any plug that you buy straight out of the shop. Test everything, otherwise one day you may just hook a big pike, it'll thrash and squirm, and it could easily straighten out a split ring. So get hold of the shank of the treble firmly and push against it like with your thumb, and you'll notice that split ring is a strong and sturdy one. The treble hooks on many plugs have large rank barbs. Get a small file and file the points down fine, file the barbs down as fine as you possibly can, because this makes for perfect penetration when you strike the hooks home into the fish. When plugs become pitted by the attention of lots of pike's teeth, if you're lucky and you're a good lure angler, occasionally mix some epoxy resin and rub it into the wounds. And as you can look into my box, there are some lures that have got horrendous wounds. And the lure, as we were using earlier on today, you can see the wounds caused by these pike. Lots of people around today will go lure fishing and treat it as a last ditch effort. Oh, they're not catching on dead baits, so they throw a plug out at the last minute of the day. You don't do that in lure fishing the real way. You go, you work for your pike, you go at the best feeding times, and that's how you'll catch lots and lots of fish. Now, talking of colours, plugs come in all the colours of the rainbow. I mean, you don't see many fish swimming through the drains red, orange, bright, black. Most fish are silver and bronze, but these in the varying colours, different lights at the times of day, can stir the pike into the strike. In water that's slightly tinged or in very, very low light conditions, fluorescent orange is a very, very good colour to use. The deepest I've ever caught pike and trout, below 50 feet, trout as deep as 70, I've caught them on fluorescent orange lures. Fluorescent orange doesn't change when it goes down into the deeps. Now, I have never seen, in all the years I've been fishing, a red and white fish, one with a red head and a white body. But this one is an exceptional pike catcher at certain times, in certain light conditions, amongst heavy weed growth. If there's dense weed beds in the water and you're working your lure through them, red and white stands out against a dark background and the pike can see it. Just like it'll see the bright yellow of the fire tiger. These score really, really well in heavy colour and low light conditions. Sizes of lures. You'll see some of these are quite big and some of them are very, very small. One particular lure I can get out here and show you is a heading tiny tadpole. That lure has produced pike for me to just under 24 pounds. So what end of the scale is the best way to choose your lures for catching pike? Now I've gone through the whole size scale of lures for pike over the past 25 years. I've thrown plugs as large as table legs, as one of my mates quotes. But after many, many trials, tribulations, whatever you want to call them, I've reached my size limits. And you'll notice from very small ones that will occasionally produce a very big pike to lures approximately 6 to 7 inches. I don't own any plugs anymore 9, 10, 12 inches, because pure and simply plugs between the 4 inches and 7 inches will far outfish anything else, and for consistent results, catching all sizes of pike right up to very big ones, nothing can beat what I'm advising today. I can talk about these things till the cows come home, but most of all I like to catch pike on them, so let's go and catch some more pike. I'm using a little plug now because a few little fish on the prowl. Oh, it's a bit of a birdie. That's with not checking the weight of that lure. You must ensure that your drag's set for casting the weight of lure. Well, let's see if we can catch some pike. I mean, I love catching all sizes of pike, as I've said. But the biggest pike I've ever caught on a lure, a mighty slab of a fish, 31 pound 10 ounce, chumped a 7-inch whopper stopper Hellcat Magnum in rainbow trout pattern. I was fishing the water in the Lake District. It had just crept light in the morning, made a few casts, got a 22 pound 2 ounce fish after about 4 or 5 casts. A few minutes later, bang, I felt this take. Hauled on the fish and I knew it was big by the sheer weight of it. When it was coming close in by me, under my feet, I was looking where the line entered the water, trying to gauge the length of the fish, see where its dorsal fin and tail was, when all of a sudden it reared up half out the water. Whoa, what a fish! 30 pound at least, I said to myself. few boils, swirls, few deep boring runs, and my fingers were under its chin. It was out the water and it was whee ha ho ho. I was whooping with delight. The biggest pike I've ever caught on a plug. Not the biggest I've ever hooked, but the biggest I've ever landed. The ones I hooked and lost, well, I'll leave that story for another time. In the meantime, I'll see if I can just... Oh, I thought I had a take then. Yes, I did. A little swirl come to the surface there behind that. The little fish, you know, they'll just nick the lure. Although they've certainly got a mouth big enough to wrap around this lure. Little tiny shad wrap. Beautiful action. Only dive 5 or 6 feet on a retrieve like this. But again, it's that little twitching retrieve. Few turns. Yay! Gotcha! Yeah, I knew I'd get one of these small ones. Oh. Got the trace wrapped round it there. You have to watch trace while you're getting wrapped round hooks. It can damage it. I fancied a few small pike on these shad wraps. Not likely to get a big fish, but better to catch a few little fish than be catching none at all. There's a nice little pike. A lot of these, only a year old, those size of fish. Better just check that trace. Always remember when you're lure fishing, periodically check your trace for damage because it's stranded. Ah, yeah. Yeah, there you are, see? Damaged trace, frayed strands. That could lead to even more breakages. Let's have a pull on that. It's still strong because it's 28-pound wire, is that? Give you a brief rundown on the type of traces that I use. Always use a trace length to start with, minimum around about 14 inches. If you're using a little lure, in this case a little shad wrap, and a very, very big pike comes behind it and sucks it in from behind, if you're using a short trace, say 8 inches, it could possibly engulf the lure right into the back of its throat and the trace into its mouth, and the teeth of the pike right at the very front of its jaw could sever your nylon, resulting in a very, very big fish lost. I'll give a brief rundown now on the type of clips that I use for attaching my lures, spinners, plugs, spinner baits, bucktails or whatever. That type of snap there is a midi sea snap. One of the best that I've ever used. So far I've never had one open out. Very, very reliable, and I use these for a great deal of my lure fishing, say 80% of my lure fishing. I nearly always use for pike 30 pound, 28 pound test marlin steel type trolling wires. You can buy all these trace wires from various tattle dealers in the UK. In this case this is a tide beater type of wire. A swivel is attached to the other end to prevent line twist. In this case it's a Leon Dore diamond eye swivel, very, very small, very, very strong, very, very light of weight. In no way do they affect the action, even if I was using a very, very tiny lure. Superb for this type of fishing. Now that's my standard trace, which I'd use in most of the instances I fish. But for heavier lures, jerk baits, very large plugs when I'm trolling big lures. I still use the same type of swivel. I might step up the strength of wire to perhaps 40 pounds. In some cases 50 pounds. If I'm tossing a 2-ounce jerk bait for several hours, stress on the wire, so that extra strength is a protection for when I do hook a very big fish. The snap in this case is a Ryobi snap. Ryobi send me these, and these are very, very strong, reliable cross-lock type snap for attaching lures. There are no better than these. These two type of snaps I've just showed you are the best that I have ever used. These are for all my pike fishing. If I'm trolling for ferrets on the Great Lochs of Scotland or Ireland, those are the type of snaps that I use. Now, if I was to be, say, fishing for perch or trout in a water where there was pike, if I was using very, very tiny spinners, I would then use a lightweight size, far lighter than what I'm using. Same type of snaps, same type of swivels, but say a lighter weight wire, 10 to 15 pounds, just in case a pike comes along and engulfs the small spinner. It's just a protection for when I'm fishing the waters where the pike are. Now, the lines that I use, I still use mono a great deal, but these last couple of years I've been using the new American braids that lots of anglers in the UK are now raving about. Spider wire, gorilla braid, tiger thread, outcast, all very, very good, very, very strong, very low stretch, they float, low memory, superb stuff, and due to the no stretch you can really feel a whack when a pike hits it. However, there can be one drawback. You must be very, very careful in what knots you use. The knots that I use is twice through the eye of the swivel and then a grinner knot and slide that in position. I think that going through the eye of the swivel twice acts as a buffer and prevents the knot weakening and breaking. Or I use the Palomar knot, which the Americans call, and that is a very, very reliable knot. This line here is 40-pound test gorilla braid. If I'm casting an 1.5 ounce lure for hour after hour, stress on the line can gradually weaken it. So always check your knots. The rod. This is a powerful rod that enables me to cast big jerk baits and handle big hard fighting pike. Multipliers are without any shadow of a doubt the big fish reel and the finest reel a lure angler can use. You cannot possibly cope lure fishing with a fixed spool reel. You just can't do it. It is inadequate for the job. A multiplier is the best in the business. In this case, the 6501C Abu left-hander. The other one, the little one that I probably use for 99% of my general type lure fishing. Little 7-foot lightweight trigger bait caster, which will handle any pike swimming in these type of drains. Now, my lure fishing session in the summertime, I could come onto the water 4 o'clock. I might say I'm going to stay all day. Boom, boom, boom. I can sit here, stand here, move around, and I can cast for hour after hour. That rod sits in my hand perfectly balanced, effortless. I can cast for long periods. I was in Canada a few weeks ago casting big plugs, big jerk baits for 8 or 9 hours. And my wrist was just starting to ache, pure and simply because I was using a short, powerful rod that sat in my hand perfectly relaxed. Another very important tip, always ensure that your drag is set. with a multiplier. If a big fish hits your lure right at the end of your retrieve and your drag is not set right, it turns and bolts away, the result will be a crack off. And that can happen in boats. I've been plug fishing. Plug's got 6 feet from the end of the retrieve, and 25-pounder pike has come up, lashed onto the lure, boom, and sounded deep. But because my drag is set perfect, it can take the line away, thumb pressure on the drum, I can haul it back and let it surge away, haul it back, surge away by the thumb pressure and the reel. The superb team, that little bait caster and the multiplier. Now there are occasions when I do use a fixed spool reel and an 8 to 9 foot soft action rod, and that is for spoon fishing. Casting lightweight fluttering spoons with the wind for good distances is fine with a multiplier, but if you cast teeth into the wind with a multiplier, you cast, the wind can catch the spoon and blow it back, and it can result in an overrun. So this is where the fixed spool reel can come into its own. The long rod helps me work that spoon, flip it through the surface just like that, and these are the ways for stirring the pike into the strike. Those are the type of tackles I use. Breaking strain of nylon, I very rarely ever drop below 15 pounds. 15 pounds is the lowest, for the simple reason is the stress of continual casting can gradually weaken your line. The shock of the strike, that boom, we hit that fish. If you've got a weak line, you go out, get the tape, boom, and the result can be a crack off. So very rarely do I ever drop below 15 pounds line. Now nylon line, the stress of continual casting, stretch, can gradually weaken the last couple of yards of your lines out, say several hours fishing. It can ribbon, it'll flatten and ribbon, so periodically give it, test it, bite off a couple of yards, retie. These little precautions prevent you losing pike. As I said, when I hook a pike, I like to get the hooks into it to stay in. I like to land all the pike a hook. And I think it's time. I hooked another one this time. I'm going to do a bit of spoon fishing. Basically the same way, along them reed banks, down on the cut banks. Now you'll notice, when I'm fishing a spoon, I'm holding my rod entirely different to what I am when I'm working a plug. Pure and simply because it's a piece of metal I'm tossing about now, and if I'm working the rod low, it'll drag through the water and skim the bottom. By working the spoon like this, keeping the rod up, little jerks, slow retrieves, I can actually see the lure flashing, keeling over and diving just under the water as it's coming along. Only 3 or 4 feet deep. As long as that spoon is working along just under the surface, in the top foot or so, I'm hot on the trails of a pike. I love spoons. This one in particularly is a Casamo Professor. I did the original field testing of this in the UK quite a few years ago, and I've caught many pike on them, up to 20 pounds. But spoons can come in a whole array of different sizes, just like the plugs, and lots of them in my collection are homemade. Pieces of copper beaten out on a piece of carpet with a little ball hammer to get the correct curves and bends and twists, so they come through the water wobbling, not spinning, because you don't want a spoon to spin, but you want it to wobble side to side as it's coming through the water. If it's spinning, it's not working naturally, and it can cause line twist. But spoons are a very effective way of catching pike, and often they'll trigger a response when all else fails. long cast, jerk it up to the top. I'm still in a position, although I've got the rod pointing high, it's still in the direction of the spoon coming back to me. So when a pike suddenly does rear up and take, I've still got the angle to sweep the rod round and set the hooks firmly into the jaws of the pike. Another thing with using copper or brass spoons, they can tarnish after a bit of use in the water, and they get marks, blister marks on them. And for that reason, I'll show you something in a few minutes. I always carry a little film container with a bit of brasso inside and a cloth to keep them highly polished, because you cannot beat a nice bright flashing copper spoon. You can get spoons in many different patterns, but very rarely will you get them to outfish the silvers, the coppers and the brasses. Yeah. I was in Canada and I was trolling on a lake with another chap, and he was catching plenty of pike on various types of plugs. Well, I was literally taking the place apart, trolling a lightweight fluttering copper spoon. They will produce the results almost anywhere. There's very few waters that I have ever fished that a copper spoon fails to produce pike. Great fish catchers. The old Irish anglers, the guides, the gillies swear by copper. I'll relate to a little story that happened to me in Ireland a few years ago. Fishing this lake, and a couple of very elderly gentlemen came to see me, both in the late 70s and still fit enough to be actively catching pike. They looked at my incredible array of plugs, which it was to them, because they had hardly any at all. And this old chap said to me, "Ah," he said, "Gordy, you catch lots of pike on them, but you won't catch them as well as you will with the copper spoon on this lake. It's got to be 3 inches long and it must be copper." Well, I'm not one to turn down any advice from anybody, and I picked up that little copper spoon, 3 inches long, and in the next hour I caught 15 pike by listening to a couple of old Irish gentlemen that had fished that water all their life. Proved they knew what they were on about. And it proved to me once again that a copper spoon is a very effective lure on most of the waters I've ever lure fished for pike. Fluttering its way through. Pike aren't showing, it's gone quiet. I'll just take one out the old Irish chap's book, and I'll just switch to copper and see if it can do it today. I don't think the pike are moving very well just at the moment. It's been quiet for a spell, except for those few small fish. Come on, Gordy. Coax one of them better quality fish. Come on, Gordy. As I said, this is a highly polished spoon, that one. See, it's getting a little bit of tarnish now, because I did have a few casts with it before. But there, a little bit of brasso polishes the spoon and keeps them shining brightly. And the brighter they are, the brighter the prospects are for catching those pike. Another good tip, not to be snuffed at. Another lure I've not talked much about today is a spinnerbait. I had one or two good fish on them. They're not a lure I use a great deal myself, but nonetheless, they do at times produce excellent results. Again, I have had a 20-pound pike on a spinnerbait that came at the right time. Yes, gotcha. Another rooting jack. Hey, come on. Come on, tall Gordy. I could nearly use the plug as a handle then. Little tiny pike taking the spoon. See what I mean? Another little fish, eh? We can do it. Away you go. This is getting a bit crazy, this catching all these little pike. Look at the colour of Tosh, eh? Spent all her life, 11 years of digging the banks of this river. Just look at that, eh? Go on, get that, Toshka. Get out now, get out. She's going on 11 now. Best angling companion that I've ever had. No arguments. I have to shout at her now and again, but Tosh, hey, come on. Well, I'm going to have a try for a big fish now. I thought I might have picked a decent fish. All I'm doing is picking small ones up, so I think I'll just put back the old super shad wrap. Oh, before I do, the old spinnerbait, another very, very effective way of catching pike. I don't use them a great deal myself, but I do catch pike, lots of pike on them. It's looking bleak now. I just hope it's not going to lash down now and ruin the day, the end of the day. I want a beast. Come on, you pig. This water has tinged up a bit because that rain we had earlier on. I'm not a great lover of water when it gets too tinged, but it's not that bad. At least I can see the plug circulating easy enough in the water. Yeah, oh! Thought that was a take then. Thought that was a take. Punked on the reed stalk there. Oh. Bit too much effort there to cast a long way. Trying to catch that corner of them reeds. Some pretty ominous looking weather in the distance there. I hope these cameramen can handle the situation. Oh, fish just jumped out the water. That's a sign of a pike coming past. Yes, 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 come on. Okay, it's not a big fish, it's another small one. Come on, come on. Come on, Tuck. Oh Lord, come on, come on. Gotcha. Right, hey. Day's coming to end, this drizzle's coming in now. I'm going to have a few more casts and it's going to have to be the grand finale. I have caught some big pike when it's been absolutely sheeting down. Like this. Bit of a split fin there. Yeah, a bit of a split fin. Aye, split fin, but still, they're coming. I don't think I'm going to catch them anymore now. I mean, I don't want to be fishing for too long in this, so I'll slip this back, to become a 25 pounder. Right by the reeds, Gordy. Yes! Finally, this is a blooming cracker. Yes, this is the fish. Yes. Come on, Gordy. Come on. Oh, look at that. Oh, I thought he was going to jump then. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh. Oh. Come on. Yes! Hey! Joe, I thought he was going to jump then. The blooming hooks were going to come out of it. It's crazy. Good old Gordy. What a fish, that's a cracker. Pushing 14 or 15. What a beauty. But he was my pliers. Good old Gordy. Certainly come right behind that blooming shad wrap. It's come right behind it and gulsed it. I didn't think it was going to be as big as this when it first hit, but certainly got. Keep still. Wait, it's only likely up to there. Come on. Gotcha. Gotcha. Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho! Good old Gordy. What a day. What a fish, eh? Oh boy. Oh, it's got a bit of a mark on its tail. Well, we had an eventful day. Lots of fish, small fish, big fish, rung the changes, caught on spoons, big plugs, little plugs. What a cracker. What a way to end the day. Now this is going to become a big fish in the future. Away you go. Away you go. Oh. Come here, Tosh. Well, it's the end of the day. Been a good eventful day, lots of fish, so I think it's time I took Tosh home for a bath. So long from old Gordy. May see you again sometime.